Hello and welcome everybody to this lovely video by the Unlimited Power Crew. I think this might be the first. No, it's not the first video all three of us have been in, but it's one of the few videos all three of us have been because Tony's not been around for most of the games we've played. Before we kick off, we are a UK-focused Star Wars Unlimited podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call us. I don't think there's many UK-focused ones in the Star Wars Unlimited community around at the moment. So I just want to pimp the fact that we are using, using a lot of a Facebook group focused in the UK with an events section where we're sharing all the pre-release events that are happening. We're going to be sharing all the tournaments that are happening in the event efforts to try and make the organised play scene in the UK as strong as we can do and as popular as we can be, so that everybody can find everything that they want to in terms of events. There's like a one-stop shop. The Star Wars Unlimited website is most to cover all this stuff, but they're kind of in the process of populating it. So I figure we could share all the events in there, and that'd be a good place to go and build community. Secondly, there's a friend of the channel called Spellbound Games. There's a link in the website. We're buying most of our Star Wars Unlimited boosters from him. He's a great guy, chap called Hung. Met him in December at Dragon Meet last year. He's doing a good discount on his product, so if you still want to get your Star Wars Unlimited purchases in, please give him a visit. He's a top bloke and could use the business, absolutely. He's looking to open a store in London soon. We're also looking to grow the channel, so all the usual, please like the video and leave a comment to help the YouTube algorithm decide to share our content further and all that sort of thing. And do subscribe to see more of our content as it comes along. We're going to be doing games being played. We'd be doing informational videos like this when the topic sort of strikes, and more as the game develops and we actually get some inspiration.
For every subscriber, I'll give the child another biscuit.
Are you sure that's a good thing?
I was going to say, at this time of night, no.
I suppose you didn't say the size of the biscuit.
It's better than that when we did that live stream.
Which one? The one where we got horribly drunk on Super Chats?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was dangerous.
That was without the baby. Before somebody starts complaining, baby was safe with his mum.
Midnight New Year's Eve, and somebody decided that for every Super Chat we'd take a drink, and yeah, that got dangerous very quickly on our other YouTube channel. You won't find it on this channel, thank God.
Because we're good boys on this channel.
Absolutely.
We're all good, aren't we, Alan? No, he says no, we're not.
No.
Right.
It seemed very verbose. This episode is all about learning to play the game better. So there's in following through all the Star Wars Unlimited influencers and people making Let's Play videos and websites about tier lists for leaders when only a third of the set has been spoiled and all this sort of thing that is rather useless, really. I found this website called Garbage Rollers, and they do informational articles about the game, but they've got a really, really good series of articles called New Player Lessons. I don't know much about who the people who write the website are. I just found this picture of them, which is literally their front page. Their website is www.garbagerollers.com. They're about them says they're a group of tabletop gamers from DFW, which is Dallas Fort Worth in Texas, who have played various collectible card games and tabletop games for several decades. And at least one of their number is always very active in the Star Wars Unlimited Discord. So give them a look if you haven't already. And the reason why I prompted this and looked at this is their New Player Guide series, which, assuming you know how to play the game technically in the basics, you play a base, you exhaust things, you tap your leader and all this sort of stuff. This is learning how to play the game a little bit better. If you want to play to win, this has got some very good articles in explaining that stuff.
I need that because you keep beating me.
This is one of my secrets. So I was a little, do I actually really want to do this article? Because John might learn some of my secrets about what I'm doing here.
Is this literally what you've been using to beat him?
It's not entirely what I've been using him to beat him, but it has helped. It has certainly helped. So this first article in the New Player Guide series, which you can find at the top of their website, they've got a link here called New Player Guide, which is very clear. And you go in there and you'll find the link to all the series of articles they're doing. They'll add more articles over time. And this first one is the basic principles around card gaming. So they say there are 3 types of card gaming players. There's a Timmy, there's a Johnny, and a Spike. And this was coined by some Magic the Gathering developer a while ago. The article goes into more details. Timmy wants to play for fun. He doesn't really care if he wins or loses. He just wants to have a laugh doing it. And what they do is needs to be big and memorable and showing off, essentially. Johnny is self-expression. They're playing for the theory and the enjoyment of it and making combos come true and playing for the flavor and the fluff and wanting to put clever plays together and not necessarily win all the time, but win more often than not through insight and through their own efforts in putting the deck together and how they play it and so forth. And then Spike is there to win at all costs. Cares nothing about the game, nothing about the fluff. He's literally there to put a deck together that he's figured out is the most efficient deck used for winning and will win at all costs and win as often as possible.
So it's basically John in 40k.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't see a bit of all three of these archetypes in the three of us somewhere, I must confess. But yeah, it's good. Which kind of makes me think that maybe that's part of why we do well at putting different like viewpoints together.
So I just like weird stuff and don't really care if I win or not.
Yeah, you're just there to have a laugh and paint pretty models and yeah.
Makes sense. Right, so
I'm not going to go through all the articles and see every detail of them. They go through the four main archetypes of card gaming deck. Aggro decks are quick. They're meant to win the game very, very quickly through damage output, and don't if the game drags on longer, they will like run out of steam and start getting beaten by the other decks. Mid range is a sort of average deck that will, like a take all comers kind of a deck essentially. Control is the annoying, to use a Magic the Gathering term, blue player deck who likes to counter everything and control everything and manipulate you and spoil your plays and just sort of like mess with you a bit. And combo is where you put together a game-winning combo with 3 or 4 specific cards, and as soon as you manage to draw that combo and play it, you like bing, you win. And you can mix the archetypes as much as you want, but it's just a broad overview essentially. So that's the first article in the new player guide on garbage rollers. The second one is the stats for an opening hand. And the basic guidance here is how many cards of a 1 or 2 cost do you need in a Star Wars Unlimited deck to be able to guarantee, or what the odds are drawing one of them in your opening hand and after you mulligan to be able to have a 1 or 2 drop in that opening hand.
Oh, interesting.
If you don't have a 1 or 2 drop in your opening hand, then you can't play anything in the first turn. You're a bit screwed, really.
Yeah.
And their wisdom is, using the ones I've highlighted, they work off a fact of having 11 or 12 1 or 2 drop like opening hand cards. There's an 80% you'll have one in the first draw. There's a 95, 96% chance you'll have one if you mulligan to get one. And those are pretty acceptable odds to how they use for deck building.
Right, now, because I'm complete absolute new.
Yep.
What do you mean by mulligan?
So when you start a game of Star Wars Unlimited, you draw 6 cards.
Yeah.
Mulligan is when you don't like your starting hand, you take those 6 cards, you put them all back into deck, shuffle it all up, and draw another 6.
Because I don't remember seeing that in the rules.
It is.
It's definitely there. Yeah. Because we both did it this week on the games we had this week.
Yeah.
Both games we mulliganed. Yeah.
And you can mulligan for several reasons, whether or not you think you've the starting hand you've got isn't good enough, or maybe you think it could be better and you want to take a risk, or whatever you want to do. But
usually it's usually like you've drawn 3 or 4 cards, you're not going to be able to play for 3 or 4 turns, and you're like, do you want to sit on your ass and do nothing for 3 or 4 turns? Probably not, so you have to mulligan.
Yeah. You want to guarantee you've got cards to be able to play for at least the first turn, preferably the first 2 or 3 turns, and then draw some more cards.
I was going to say, one of the mulligans I did this week, I got Vader's Lightsaber, which is a 1 or a 2 cost card, but you need a creature to play it on because you need to give something Vader's Lightsaber. So
and ideally, it needs to be a Force user, and ideally Vader, which means you're probably waiting till turn 6 or 7 to get Vader out to use it.
So even if you've got, you might want to go higher than 11 or 12, but yeah, that's an interesting point, I suppose.
Some of the decks I've built, I have gone higher because instead of saying 11 or 12 1 or 2 cost cards, I've tweaked that in my head to say 11 or 12 cards that I want to play on the first turn.
Yeah, okay. That's a good idea. So almost like 11 or 12 creatures or spaceships, because most of the cards that actually do stuff, like, like opening fire from the dark deck, they usually cost they usually cost 3, I guess, for like direct damage.
There's very few I will just shoot you cards.
Yeah, that cost 1 or 2, at least in my experience.
And those that do tend to target opposing units rather than bases, so it's worth having a unit on there just for board preference.
Yeah.
Presence. Going a little bit further down the article, there are other guidance rules that they've got for things to bear in mind when you should mulligan, and these are contextual. So you need to bear in mind the rest of your deck. If you've got the Vader that you mentioned and you've drawn Vader's lightsaber, you're not going to be playing it really, really early. So you might want to mulligan if you've got loads of stuff that you ain't going to play until late in the game.
Yeah.
Or synergies and useful things. So there's details in there. What have we got in the third article? I've gone back a bit there. That's not helpful. Third article. Resourcing. What cards to play down in the resource row and what cards to not play down in the resource row. And this takes you
interesting.
through their thought process in when to resource a card and when to not resource a card.
Oh, interesting, because I guess I've just been winging it.
Yep. This is their logic chain. You don't have to obviously follow it exactly. This is just their guidance for what they do and what has worked for them in the past. So if you've got two of the same card in your hand and you're probably only going to use one, maybe you put one of those down as a resource. You don't think you're going to need it. So again, I'm not going to go through the whole articles because if you want to go through them, you can read them. Links to the new player series will be in the video description, by the way.
I was just about to ask that because I think I need to sit down and read this properly.
Fair enough. I'm glad that I've piqued your interest. So next up, we have a very big article all about Star Wars card cost structure and the cost budget on what makes a card good value and what makes a card bad value. So a card costs a number of resources to play. 2 resources, 3 resources, you tap them, you play them. And the more resources you play, generally, the more powerful the card.
Mm-hmm.
Some cards, you get more bang for your buck than others. And in this article, they've worked out the costings, roughly, of what you get for the resource cost of a card. And it allows them to calculate whether a card is undercosted, as in you get more bang for your buck than possibly you pay for. And overcosted means you get a little bit less than the resources you pay for compared to some other cards. An undercosted one is really, really good, and an overcosted one is bad. And they talk you through the process by which they work out the relative value of good cards and bad cards. And the long and short of it is, the more of these little aspect symbols they've got below the card, they also add extra budget to the card as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it talks you through how many buffs that is worth in doing so.
Certainly, so there's a lot to learn from this.
Yeah, if you want to do a real deep dive into whether a card is worth value or not, then this is a potentially interesting little math article to go through. I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is sequencing. Sequencing is a principle of what to do first in your turn, because Star Wars Unlimited is a game of I take an action, you take an action, I take an action, you take an action, I take an action, you take an action. But if you take the wrong action, then potentially you've done something that has wasted what you could have done if you'd have taken a different action instead in a different order. And this is an article telling you about how to get the most value out of your turns and your actions by changing the order in which you do things, whether you attack with this guy first, whether you play this card first, whether you use your special leader ability first. And it's their principles that they go by in deciding what sequencing decision to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely have been using some of this stuff to beat you, John.
Okay, cool.
The next article in their series is the art of when to take the initiative and pass, and how that works, and whether or not you should try and get the most value out of playing things, or whether you might just like suck up a loss of a resource or two to try and take the initiative based on reading the round, how it's going. And get the initiative for the following turn.
Interesting.
So it's all about the strategy and the tactics of the game, these ones.
Okay.
Deck building is how to build your deck in terms of what you should put in it and why. And this has their basic macro principles of what they think about when they build a deck, the decisions that form the basic concepts of it, and then they go into literally how to fill it out with the 50 cards of stuff. So this line here harkens back to their 11 or 12 cards of turn 1 drop stuff. Then they want high-powered stuff to finish the game. Removal cards are cards that will get rid of other units, when the chips are down, a handy waylay card in order to make your opponent take that really powerful character back into their hands so they can't attack you with it is clutch at the right time. And the rough breakdown that they tend to go by in terms of ground to space to events and upgrades. And the reason behind why they take more ground units than space units is they found in that the card budget costings, ground units tend to have like a pip or two more of power than space units do.
Does that imply then the space units are a little bit unbalanced?
No, it implies that they want people on the ground more often than they want space vehicles. But if you leave a space lane undefended and your opponent plays a spaceship down there, then they can just keep poking you for 3 or 4 damage a turn. So the space is a valuable tactical arena to be concerned about, but it doesn't do as much raw damage in general as ground lanes.
Okay.
And this takes through their focus, their principles on how they put a deck together and what they think about when doing so.
Man, we've got a lot of reading ahead of us. We need to build some more micro videos around this stuff.
Yeah.
So people can jump in and get information in like 1 or 2 minutes.
That's the plan. I've got another video which we're going to be doing. We're going to be recording it shortly after this one, putting it out. But it'll be helpful synergistically to this video as well. The next Garbage Rollers video here is a bit of a conceptual one. It's understanding the term tempo as it applies to a collectible card game. And my understanding of tempo from this article in general is it's the concept of who is in charge of the game, based on whether they've disrupted your opponent's play sequence of what they're planning on doing, but their tactical strategy is still in place, or whether they can just like control and keep things going and bashing you down. So it's kind of understanding what is meant by the term tempo when you see it used in articles and hear it spoken by people who know what they're on about in Star Wars Unlimited videos and so forth. The final article that they've got is what is a sideboard and how do you use it? And a sideboard in Star Wars Unlimited terms is a set of 10 cards you can bring alongside your 50-card main deck to a tournament. And after the first game, you can swap any or all of the cards that you need to out of your 50-card main deck to still hit the 50-card minimum, and swap in any of the 10 cards that you've got in your sideboard to tweak and tailor your deck's ability to beat the deck that you've been playing against, because most games in tournaments are going to be best of 3. So if you know that the deck you're playing against is going to be running lots of shields, for example, like a Luke deck or something, a Luke defensive, and your deck doesn't have any ability to get around shields, you might put some cards in your sideboard that are very, very good at getting rid of shields or upgrades, and then you swap them in from your sideboard for game 2, so you can play more effectively against your opponent in game 2 and game 3.
That's cool. That's actually really cool.
Sideboarding is a whole kettle of fish beyond what you do normally in building a deck, but obviously it's a key part of tournament play, so they've done a pretty good article explaining it and the philosophies behind it and concepts behind what they would put in a sideboard, when and why, and what you swap out for your sideboard.
Oh, nice.
So that is the new player guide as far as it stands so far on Garbage Rollers. So yeah,
Sounds
I saw
like
this. I've
definitely-
gone through it in detail.
I was going to say definitely worth reading.
I thought it would be worth a good read to anybody who's not, well, doesn't know all of this stuff anyway and is a professional tournament player. But if you're looking to improve your game, then absolutely worth a look.
Cool. Thanks for sharing, Mark.
Yeah, I hope you find it
There's
useful.
nothing in it. It's just a wallet. Stop trying to steal my non-existent money.
You're not a cash person anymore these days.
No, is anybody?
Not really.
Cheap.
No.
Not what I can be.
Okay.
I'm very hopeful and pretty sure there's going to be more articles to come in this series. Obviously, they've already got... Oh, hang on. There's another one in here that I haven't looked at yet. Lesson 9. Who's the beatdown?
Don't show us it now, because otherwise John will read it before you do. And
Oh, yeah, that's
we'll beat
true.
you
I'll,
next
I'll
time.
read that later. And lesson 10 coming soon. We'll find out what that one is. So I've still got lesson 9 to read. That'll be interesting. In order to see all the Garbage Rollers articles, you go to their website. I'm subscribed to all of their articles via an RSS feed, so they pop up in my feed reader whenever they go up. Obviously, I haven't checked my RSS feed today, otherwise, see there's a new article. You can also subscribe to get all their emails all their articles straight emailed into your inbox through this little bit here. If you want to do so, or you just carry on checking their website. They do more than just this new player series. All the series that they've got are all shown down here on the right-hand side. And yeah, that's everything for this video.
Okay, so I think that was a good find, Mark.
Yeah,
you
definitely a good find.
Stuff. It's quite amazing the amount of, considering the game is not actually officially out yet as we read this. It's amazing just how much stuff is already getting out there about it.
Well, a lot of these are principles taken from existing CCGs that are already very popular and have got tournament scenes already. I mean, obviously, Magic's been going for donkey's years. Pokemon's still popular. Lorcana is new on the scene. Disney Lorcana.
Yeah.
And there's uncountable number of other CCGs out there still.
I saw a Final Fantasy one the other day.
I bought a pack of that, and I really wanted to get into it, but I couldn't find anybody who wanted to play with me, so that wound up getting ditched a few years ago, unfortunately. But I'm a massive Final Fantasy nerd, so I really wanted to give that a go.
Fair enough.
So yeah,
Cool.
all links to all of this stuff is in the description below.
Yeah.
Once again, we are trying to grow this channel, so do please like, subscribe, comment on us, all that kind of
and
jazz.
be nice and drop a look and have a little look at this website, because we've just completely ripped off their website for content without even asking.
No, I did ask them and check them before. I said, look, we're going to do a feature on your website. Are you cool with it? Because I think that if they're going to have a problem with it, then we're not going to do it. But they were cool with it, so do give them your patronage. And
yeah,
so
check it out.
Big props to these guys then for sharing all this information. And yeah, I'm with Tony. It's crazy how much info is out there already, considering you can't even buy the cards yet. So cool. Okay.
Oh, and John, I've thought of a new catchphrase I'm going to say every time I beat you with this game as well, just so you're aware.
Tell me.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
You are beaten. Give in to the Mark side.
Oh dear.
I was watching Empire over the
I
weekend.
was going to say, on that bombshell, we'll end the video. Don't play Mark at this game, apparently.
Thanks very much, everybody.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.